Miguel will let you sit down for a second. In an impromptu round, you walk into the round of competition. Right there's no special room where we hide you. And you are given 3 quotations. You have to then pick one of those quotations and then draw a thesis out of it and actually give a speech about that quotation. You get 2 minutes to prepare and 5 minutes to speak. So Natalie is going to give what we call oral time signals. So she's going to go 30 seconds, 1 minute, 1:30, 2 minutes. And by 2 minutes, Brianna will be up here speaking. But we need something for her to speak about. So we usually use familiar quotations or quotations you've heard in the news. Does anybody have a favorite quotation? I need the quotation as well as the author. Anyone have a quotation? Up there. I got one right up there.
What if I told you 10 years from now your life would be exactly the same? Doubt you'd be happy. So why are you so afraid of change? Karen Solomon said.
I swear that person is not a plant.
Okay, I got, what if I told you 10 years from now?
Your life would be exactly the same.
Okay.
Doubt you would be happy.
Who's this by?
There's still more.
Oh!
So why are you so afraid of change?
Why are you so afraid of change? Usually we use short quotations. By who?
Karen Salmonson.
Karen Selms. Is that a relative of yours or somebody famous? Or is that you? We need another quotation.
I'm the king of the world from Titanic.
Oh, I'm the king of the world, Leonardo DiCaprio, or whatever his name was. We need one more. Right there.
Most people are as happy as they make up their minds to be. And that was, I thought, Abraham Lincoln.
Okay. Most people are as happy as they
make up their minds to be.
They make up their minds to be. Abraham Lincoln. Michael Scott. I'm going to start a clock for 2 minutes, and then she'll have 5 minutes to speak. And you can watch Natalie. She's going to give hand signals. So Brianna ends at exactly 2 + 5, which is 7. So go for it.
Nowadays, Darren Criss is very well known for being one of the TV stars on Glee. But he first got his start when he was doing parody musicals as Harry Potter in the musical Harry Potter, the Musical, on YouTube. Now, Darren Criss ultimately was able to become successful because he did what he loved. He started first by making sure he was happy, and he was happy doing what he did. And ultimately, that was what allowed him to be most successful. This same idea is echoed in today's quotation by Abraham Lincoln, which reads, "Most people are as happy as they make up their minds to be." What Lincoln's getting at is that we create our own success, which we can agree with, because first, personal growth, it allows us to overcome obstacles, as we can see through the pirate Zheng Shi. Second, overcoming obstacles, like Arthur Miller, the playwright, did, ultimately teaches us lessons. And finally, learning from lessons allows us to be successful in the end, as we can see through the French woman Julie Daubigny. Now, first we can explore how personal growth allows us to overcome obstacles when we take a look at the pirate Zheng Shi. Now, Zheng Shi came from a long line of pirates, so when she finally became captain of the fleet, she knew exactly what she wanted to do. She wanted to change what her parents had done in the past, and instead of just pillaging villages, she went and imposed a tax. Now, this tax became so great that the Chinese government had no choice but to offer her amnesty, just so that she would stop imposing these taxes. In the end, it was her personal growth as a pirate that allowed her to overcome these obstacles that her parents had had in the past, where they weren't as successful. And because of this, she was ultimately able to settle down happy, rich, and with a family. Her personal growth ultimately allowed her to overcome these obstacles. We can also explore how overcoming obstacles teaches us lessons when we take a look at the playwright Arthur Miller. Now, Arthur Miller today is known as one of the best playwrights of all time. But when he first started out, success wasn't quite so easy for him. In fact, he sucked. I mean, I can't lie about it. He sucked. He couldn't get a play to stay on Broadway for more than a week. However, instead of taking this to heart and being, well, I'm just never going to write again, he decided to overcome this obstacle that he wasn't producing things that people wanted to see, and instead change how he was writing and what he was writing. In fact, he wound up going on to write one of the biggest hits on Broadway of all time, Death of a Salesman. And because he was able to overcome the obstacle of not producing things that people wanted to see, and instead changing this, he was able to ultimately learn a lesson on what he needed to produce to become the playwright he wanted to be. And that led to him winning a Tony Award for drama, ultimately making him successful. So we've explored how Arthur Miller has allowed us to overcome obstacles, teaching us lessons, but we also finally had to explore through Julie Daubigny, the French woman, how learning from these lessons is how we create our success. Now, Julie Daubigny was a 17th century French woman. She also happened to be bisexual, a swordswoman, and a French opera singer. She's not exactly the typical woman, especially during her time period. However, ultimately, Julie Daubigny learned lessons that ultimately allowed her to be successful in life. One of the biggest lessons she learned was how to love. She fell in love with a woman, and because of this, this woman's parents wound up taking her away and putting her in a convent. Because of this, instead of accepting this fate, Julie Daubigny wound up going undercover in this convent, finding a dead nun's body, putting it in her lover's bed, burning the room, and kidnapping her lover so that they could live happily ever after. Now, because of this, though, she had to deal with the fact that she was charged with crimes as a man, such as arson and kidnapping. So ultimately, although she was able to be with her love for another 3 months, the lesson that she learned there was that sometimes in the end, we have to let go of things or else deal with the consequences. In the end, she learned her lesson that sometimes the ends justify the means, and ultimately that allowed her to be successful and go on to be one of the most famous women of all time during the 17th century. Now, when we look back at today's quotation by Abraham Lincoln, which reads, "Most people are as happy as they make up their minds to be," we can easily see that what he's actually saying is that we create our own success, which we agreed with because first, personal growth allows us to overcome obstacles, as we saw through the pirate Zheng Shi. Second, overcoming obstacles, just as Arthur Miller, the playwright, did, ultimately teaches us lessons. And finally, much like Julie Daubigny, learning from lessons is the ultimate success. So when we take a look back at Darren Criss, the pop sensation on Glee today, who's belting out show tunes left and right, he didn't start out by just being some famous pop star. He worked hard, and he started out by doing what he loved and what made him happy, and that allowed him to create his own success.